When my ex-husband and my younger sister walked into my mother's birthday dinner, she wasn't just wearing a designer dress. She was wearing a smirk. 3 years ago, she stole my husband, my home, and my dignity. I walked away with nothing but a shattered heart and a bank account in the red. But tonight, in front of our entire family, she leaned across the table, laughed, and asked, "Still single?" LOL. The whole room went quiet, waiting for me to break, cry, or run out to my car. They thought I was the defeated older sister living in the shadows of their perfect life. What my sister didn't know was that while she was busy spending his money, I was quietly buying the company that owned their entire lifestyle. And her little joke was about to cost her everything. My name is Clara. I'm 32 years old, and 3 years ago, my world shattered into a million quiet pieces. I had spent 6 years building what I thought was a solid, happy marriage with Julian. We owned a charming home, planned our future, and supported each other's dreams. Then came my younger sister, Chloe. Chloe was always the favored child, accustomed to getting whatever she wanted, including my husband. When I discovered their affair, there were no screaming matches or dramatic scenes. I simply looked at the two people I trusted most, saw zero remorse in their eyes, and signed the divorce papers. Chloe walked away with Julian, my home, and every shared asset we had built together, leaving me with a shattered heart and a bank account practically in the red. Everyone in my family expected me to crumble, to fight in court, or to beg for scraps. Instead, I packed my single suitcase, chose my dignity over desperation, and quietly walked away into the dark. For the next 3 years, I went completely off the grid. I cut off contact with my extended family, blocked Chloe on every platform, and moved into a cramped, one-bedroom apartment downtown. I worked 16-hour days, taking on 2 consultancy jobs while quietly laying the foundation for my own private financial firm. Meanwhile, Chloe made sure her life was as loud as possible. Relatives constantly whispered about her social media posts, pictures of tropical vacations, designer handbags, and the grand renovations she was making to the house that used to be mine. She never missed an opportunity to drop subtle, public jabs about my unfortunate, lonely existence. While she was busy flaunting Julian's money, I was busy studying his business. I knew his real estate firm's vulnerabilities better than he did. Then came the letter, an invitation to my mother's 60th birthday dinner. I hadn't seen my family in 3 years, but something inside me whispered that it was finally time to step out of the shadows. The high-end Italian restaurant smelled of roasted garlic and expensive wine, the kind of place where hushed voices and heavy crystal glasses set the tone. I arrived early, wearing a simple, tailored navy dress that cost less than the appetizer menu. When my mother, aunts, and cousins saw me, the room filled with an uncomfortable, walking on eggshells silence. Then came the grand entrance. Chloe swept in wearing a shimmering designer dress, her hand draped possessively over Julian's arm. Julian looked smug, wearing a gold watch that I distinctively remembered helping him choose for our 5th anniversary. Chloe's eyes scanned the table, instantly landing on me with a slow, predatory smile. She didn't offer a hug or even a polite hello. Instead, as she pulled out her chair, she looked me up and down, let out a loud, theatrical chuckle, and said, "Still single? LOL. I guess some people just aren't meant to hold on to a man, Clara." A few relatives gasped, while others looked down at their napkins in awkward silence. Julian smirked, clearly enjoying my public humiliation. They thought I was going to cry. They thought I was trapped. I didn't flinch. I slowly picked up my water glass, took a calm sip, and set it down without making a sound. "I wouldn't worry about my relationship status, Chloe," I said, my voice echoing clearly over the quiet table. "I'd be much more concerned about Julian's corporate restructuring." Julian's smug expression froze. The color instantly drained from his face as he stared at me. "What are you talking about, Clara?" he stammered, trying to maintain his composure. "Just a little bird telling me that major moves are happening at your firm," I replied with a tight, polite smile. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed violently on the white tablecloth. He glanced at the screen, and his eyes widened in sheer panic. It was his lead financial partner. Julian excused himself with a trembling voice and rushed toward the hallway. Through the glass partition, we all watched his frantic gestures as he listened to the news. The anonymous holding company that had been buying up his firm's defaulted loans was officially calling them in, effective tonight. Julian stumbled back to the table, his face as white as a sheet, his hands shaking so violently he could barely hold his chair. Chloe grabbed his arm, her voice rising in panic. "Julian, what's going on? You're embarrassing me." I reached into my handbag, pulled out a neat leather folder, and placed it directly in front of them. "Allow me to clarify," I said, leaning forward. 18 months ago, Julian's firm took on predatory high-interest loans to fund your lavish lifestyle, Chloe. The new luxury cars, the Tahoe trips, the home expansion, it was all built on borrowed time and bad credit. Chloe's jaw dropped, but before she could scream, I opened the folder to show the official signatures. 3 months ago, an anonymous holding company bought out 90% of those defaulted loans. I continued, looking directly into Julian's terrified eyes. "I am the managing partner of that holding company. I own your firm's debt, Julian. And as of 5 minutes ago, I invoked the default clause. That means I now own your business assets, your commercial properties, and the mortgage on the house you stole from me. You have 30 days to vacate." The silence in the restaurant was deafening. Chloe's face morphed from arrogant superiority into complete, unadulterated horror. She spun around and shoved Julian's shoulder hard. "Is this true? Tell me she's lying. Where is all our money?" Julian couldn't even look at her. He dropped to his knees right beside my chair, completely abandoning his pride in front of the entire family. "Clara, please," he begged, his voice cracking. "We can work this out. Don't do this to us. We'll lose everything." I looked down at him, feeling no anger, no hatred, just a cold, liberating clarity. I believe the phrase was LOL. "Chloe," I said, turning my eyes to my sister, whose tears were now ruining her expensive makeup. "You spent 3 years mocking my life, while living on my dime. But this isn't personal. It's just strict execution of a contract." I stood up, pulled a $100 bill from my purse, and laid it gently on the table. "Happy birthday, Mom. Dinner is on me." I picked up my coat and walked out into the cool evening air. Within 6 months, Julian's firm went into full liquidation and the bank repossessed their house. Chloe filed for divorce shortly after, but ended up working 2 jobs just to cover her legal fees and mountain of personal debt. As for me, I sold the old house and bought a quiet, sunlit coastal cottage where I spend my mornings watching the waves and my evenings growing my business. Revenge didn't rebuild my life, my resilience did. What would you have done in my place? Comment below with the city you're watching from. Thank you for watching.